curious, what was it like working for Goldman Sachs? I mean, like, it's working as an investment banker, right? So like, what do you do? What is that like?
Yeah, well, I did a bunch of different things at Goldman, but here's a couple good things about Goldman. One is I realized that I only wanted to work in a meritocracy. So if somebody's young and listening to this, you need to do one thing. You need to get around people who are better, smarter, faster, harder working than you. And you need to get into a place where they reward that. The culture of mediocrity, as opposed to the culture of meritocracy, is what separates the really wealthy from the not wealthy. And so I got very lucky early, in fact, that Vanguard is like what I call a socialist country, but in the form of capitalism. Like they have a very tiered hierarchical system. You can't move faster than this. You get this same bonus pool no matter what you put in. It's really not for people who want to strive and grow incredibly quickly, at least back then, in my opinion. And then I went to Goldman Sachs, and it was totally different. They cut the bottom 20% every single year. When I was there, they cut far more than that because we were during the financial crisis. You did a 360 review every year where people gave you all sorts of feedback that was pretty harsh, typically. I had to do something like 12 interviews to get in there. I had to do a presentation to what would be my future like coworkers in order to get in there. I must have studied for 50 hours to get the job at Goldman. And thankfully, I got that job. But once I got into Goldman, it was a nonstop rat race. I mean, I lived in Chicago when I started there and worked in the asset management business to start. And I didn't see the sun for like 6 months because Chicago's freezing. And we would work. We were in the office at 7, and we probably wouldn't leave until sometimes 7 or sometimes 10 or 11, et cetera. And so that really also cemented this idea of, working hard it's just a little notch that you need to have on your belt. And it's a little bit of an honor to get a chance to do it so young, because then as you get older, you don't have the stamina anymore. You don't want to do it to the same degree. But when you're young, you can soak it all in. And so Goldman's a hard place, but an incredible place for somebody who wants to grind.
I was just talking to Justin Donald, who you know, about the same thing, where there's a period when you're in your maybe young 20s, like maybe before you're married, before kids, where sometimes you can grind in those years. Like those are the good grinding years. My wife and I were married at that time, but we still we would be painting rental units at 3 a.m. because we had a lease signing at 7 a.m. And so you just do what you got to do. But because of those actions, because of that grind, one, it strengthens you, and then two, it makes it so you don't have to do that for the next 50 years of your life.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think I think amateurs want to do what they love, and professionals learn to love what it takes. And the second that you understand the difference between the two of those things, you can fall in love with the game. And I have never met someone who is wildly successful who is not obsessed with the game of business.
Yeah.
And so your job as you're younger should be to find a way to become obsessed with not necessarily the outcome, not that I want to just be a painter and artist and et cetera. It's like learn to love the game. And the second you can learn to love the game, everything gets a lot easier because you do gamify things like painting up until 3 a.m. and having to get up at 7 to do the lease. But I think this generation has been told a lot of lies about that. And they've been told, that it's not okay for them to struggle that much, that in fact things should be a little bit easier, that you should follow your passion no matter what. And I actually totally disagree with that. I think there's an assault on excellence happening in the US, and the only people that win when your excellence is dimmed are the other people who are grinding. You don't win by working less. But for some reason we've lost that narrative.